If you have a table with a lot of records and you want to be able to filter through them all, well, first of all, let's just say I want to filter and pull up all those who are working in Utah, the employees. To do so, you can do it one of a couple of ways. You can come in here and click anywhere in the state column. Come up here on the Home tab in the Sort and Filter group and click on the Filter button. Brings us a little pop-up box. We have our sorting options, but we also have our filter options. You can uncheck Select All and then just come down here and say you just want to see all those who are from Utah, and then click OK. Filters out everybody else but just Utah. And then the other thing is you can see here on that column it's got a little filtering funnel. So that means that there's a filter applied to this column here. You can also see up here in the Sort and Filter group that the Toggle Filter button is highlighted, meaning that if I click on it, I can toggle between when it wasn't filtered and then click on it to toggle when it is filtered. Now if I go ahead and I click on it and I unfilter it, what's going to happen is it's still going to be filterable if I close out of the table here. Let me click Close. The operative word is Save, so that means that something's going on that it's trying to save. So if I click Yes and I come back to the Employees table, well, what happens if I click on the Toggle Filter button? It applies the filter. You see, it saved the filter, but I wouldn't know that unless I actually clicked on Apply the Filter button, so it remembers the filter. Well, how do I get rid of the filter then? If I click on it to remove it, it's gone, but it's still applicable. If I want to totally clear it out so there's no longer a filter applied to this, when I click on the toggle button, just click on the advanced arrow, come down here and click on Clear All Filters. Now it's gone. So now that there's no button to click on to toggle between your last applied filter, and that filter is no longer saved because it's been cleared. So if I close out of here, and I click No, Don't Save It, and I open up the Employees again, I still have the Toggle Filter option that I can click on to apply it. So be sure to save your work when you go ahead and you click the Advanced and you clear all filters from your table. Like I said, there's a couple other ways of doing this too. You can click on the drop down arrow, gives you the same box as it does when you come up here and click on the Filter button. Click Cancel. You can also, when in doubt, come in here in any field here in the state column and also right click, and then go down to Text Filters, which is additional options here. You can say, look, it equals AZ. So let me go ahead and left click on equals, then type in AZ and click OK, or hit enter on the keyboard, and it does the same thing. Filters through. Now I just see how many I have in Arizona. Because the total record count down here says 1 of 23, so I have 23 employees that are employed working in Arizona for our company. So what if I come up here and I right click and I say clear filter from state and I left click on it? That's another way of doing it too. You see, now I no longer have the toggle button, so it's no longer applied. So if I be sure to save my work and I close out and I come back in and open up the employees table, I don't get that toggle effect because it didn't save the filter that I applied to it. How about some other fun things? Let me go ahead and scroll over to the right of the table here and let's look at the department number. Let's say I want to find all those who are in the department 300. You can right click on 300 and say it has to equals 300. There's a quick filter. I can also, let me remove that filter. Let me go ahead and right click and just say clear the filter. Again, I want to scroll back over here. I can also right click on the 300 and say, look, it doesn't equal 300, meaning that I want to pull up all the departments except 300, or it's got to be less than 300. So anything like, I have 100, 200, or greater than 300. Of course, it pulled up everything equal to and greater than 300, so we got 300, 400s. Let me go ahead and right click on 300 and let's say it does not equal 300. So it pulls up everything that doesn't equal 300. However, it also didn't pull up the 100s and 200s because I now have two filters applied to this. How do I know? Well, you can click on the drop down arrow here and you can see that again 4 and 500 are the only ones that are checked, and the reason why is because I was working with 300, 400, and 500. That was what was currently filtered at the time. So when I says it cannot equal 300, it wasn't considering what it couldn't see, the 100 and 200s, because they were already filtered out. So again, if I right click this and I say does not equal 400, it's only got 4 or 500 to work with. Everything else is filtered out, so it doesn't equal 400. I'm left with 500. So again, to clear it all, I can go ahead and right click and then come down and just say clear. And then it takes me back to square one, in which case I have to scroll over to see that everything's back, all the departments 100 through 500. So let me kick it up a notch here. Let's say that I want to filter out all the 500 departments. So I right click on 500, I say does not equal 500, then I just have all the other departments. And then I say of those remaining departments, I also don't want all those who are working in Utah. So I right click Utah and I say does not equal Utah. I've narrowed it down. I've got a filter applied to this column. I got a filter applied to that column. In fact, when you click on the drop down arrow, it says now I just have the number filters, which doesn't equal 500, but it gives me all the rest. Okay, click cancel. And I click on the drop down filter here, and the text filters applied is the does not equal. and it was Utah, so that gives me Arizona. So now that I have this, if I don't want to keep coming back and applying the same filter over and over again, we can save this as a query. In other words, I can save this as another object and then leaving my table alone and removing all the filters. So I have my normal state of the table, which includes everything. It's not filtered out. But I save this as a separate query that includes these filters that I can open up at any time. It's a query based on this table. So to do so, to save it as a query, I can come up here, click on the Office logo button, go down and click on Save As. And then what I want to do is I want to not save it as a table, I want to save it as a query. Come up here and type in, well, let me get rid of the TBL. I'm going to delete the copy of TBL because it's no longer a TBL, and type in QRY and say it's query of the employees table. So just QRY, the prefix, the 3-letter prefix, to let me know this is a query. Click OK. It says I must first save the table before I can create a new object based on it. Be sure to save your work. Click Yes. So it saves it. I have the query object, but I also have my table here. So I have my tables that are open, my queries that's open that I saved. So I go back to my tables, and I want to go ahead and remove the filters applied. So I can come up here to my Sort and Filter group, click on Advanced, and say Clear All Filters, save my work, close out of the Employees table. I have my query table, close out of that. Now, later when I come back to my Employees table and I double click and open it up, and I say to myself, well, what was it that I filtered out? Let's see, it was Department 500, and then it was just the employees in Utah, and I can't remember. Well, fortunately for me, I saved it as a query, so all I have to do is just double click on that, opens it up, and it already has all the filters that were applied to that. So I have my normal table here. Okay, all the records that I can go ahead and filter again and do a different filter this time and maybe save it as another query, but then I have my employees query here, which is just strictly those filters that I applied but in its own view here. So I can have my table, do whatever I want, and I also have my data that is based on this table employees, but that has the filtered effect to it. Go ahead and close out of the query, close out of the tables, and that's going to be a great introduction for our next training videos, which we're going to start talking about queries, how to create one, edit them, and update them. Thanks for watching. Hey, as a quick reminder, if you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. You can also click on me and subscribe to my channel, get notified of the latest videos, and for only $2 a month, you can have access to all my Microsoft Office training videos.